Well, good afternoon. I'm going to attempt to video my story about my miracle. This is not easy. I don't normally do speaking videos on, but this is where it is. This is how it happened, and I'll share it. I'll see how we go. Okay, it was early April this year. I was in a terrible state. I had just been shopping. I was on my way home, and I was feeling very weak, like I often do when I go for these walks. And I was really down because my wife had just been in hospital a couple of months ago and nearly died. She got through it. I got her home. I nursed her back to health, and she was doing great. And about a few days ago, all of a sudden, she started to go down again. And she went down, she got ill, her blood pressure went through the roof, everything was going bad again. And I felt, oh my gosh, this is not good. And so I went down the shop to get some supplies, and I was on my way home, and I can tell you at this point, I started to feel the old dizzy spells I've been experiencing for the last years, and I thought, here we go, I'm going to have another mini stroke. I was very concerned. But what I was really concerned about was I just got to a point, I just thought, I know I can't cope with the thought of my wife going back again. My wife's been fighting blindness. As of today, she's now legally blind. But back then she was fighting it, and still is. But I was feeling so down. And all through the 8 years of fighting this heart situation, I never once felt like giving up. But on this morning, I just felt I didn't have anything left. I couldn't cope with her going back again. And I got to a point where I felt really ashamed of it too. Then for the first time, I actually felt I wanted to die. I wanted to just give up. And I'm so ashamed. I was at that stage. And I was only 15 metres away from the post box of our house. And I just leaned on the fence and then sat down on the ground. And I was just gone. I was praying out to God. I was praying. But I wasn't praying in faith. I was praying in desperation. And I was basically saying I'd had enough. And I started to get dizzier and dizzier. And I started to feel that feeling I get before I pass out, which I've done many times. And I was finding that. I used to sing a little hymn, Jesus loves me, this I know. I used to do that to get myself home. That was my favourite, but right then I couldn't do that anymore. I was just thinking, that's it. I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this. And I sat there and I waited. I waited for the passing out phase, which I've experienced so many times. Since I had my major stroke 2 years ago, I've had over 25 mini strokes. I've had a number of pass outs. So I just sat there and I waited. And I was crying out to God, but it wasn't in faith at that time. And I just sat there. And then something happened. Something happened that changed the course of my life. Right there, 10 metres, 10 to 15 feet from my post box. All of a sudden, this song came in my head. And it was the song Three Little Birds by Bob Marlowe. And the words started off, everything will be okay. It'll be all right. I just sat there and said, where's this coming from? What's this song? I mean, it's not a song I sing or mess with. Probably heard it once or twice, but it just came in and it started playing this song. And I listened to it. It got my focus. I sat there, this song, and it played on. And then I thought, oh my God, is this God answering me this way? Is God doing something? And so I sat there and listened to that song. I then got my phone and looked for it and played it again and got the words and listened to the words. And the next 10, 20 minutes, I just listened to it over and over again. But then I put my phone in my back pocket And I went inside, I went indoors, and the song continued to play. And continued to play. And in my heart, God said, just be normal. Just go in your room, do the normal things. Maybe even pick up a guitar, which I hadn't done for a long time. Just do something normal. And this song just was driving me crazy. It was playing over and over again. And I started thinking, is this God's answer? Is this God answering me? And my heart started to I started to get my heart up again. And then I just, all of a sudden I thought, hang on, I haven't had the stroke. I'm not feeling dizzy. But the song kept playing, and it kept playing, and it kept playing. And all afternoon it played. And that night when I went to bed it was playing. And when I woke up next morning it was playing in my head. But I got up. I noticed something. My heart was pounding. It hasn't done that in 8 years. It was pain, and I trusted it. It was 70, 80 beats a minute, and I've just been in bed. And I thought, that's different. And the rest of the day, it just pounded normal. It didn't go down. It didn't keep collapsing down. It didn't keep collapsing down. And it continued to go. That song continued to play. And then I started to realise what God was teaching me was I needed to occupy my mind to overcome the fears, refocus. But I didn't realise that this would heal me. You see, for 8 years when I was on the edge, I knew what to do. I knew I had to overcome my fears. I had to overcome my doubts. I knew what to do, but I didn't know how. It took me to that day that I sat beside my house and heard that song, and I realised now that what God was saying, I must fill my mind. I must fill my mind. Never let my mind be idle in any way. Control every thought. Over the next 2 weeks, my heart continued to beat, and I was always worried, when's the next hit going to come? Where's it going to stop again? Anyway, I had the great pleasure of going into my doctor, who after 8 years had said to me I was a dead man walking, so I had no hope. He said the chance of me even living through the night was a miracle. And he did an ACG, and I walked in there, and it was done, and he sat back, had his arms up about around his head. He sat back and he just looked at me, and it was just silent. I couldn't believe. I knew it was coming. And he just said to me, "What have you done?" I said, "What?" He said, "I just read your ECG. Your heart is working perfectly normal." I just jumped inside. It was such a relief. I now had medical evidence. I'm sorry, it's just too much for me to talk much more. But it was joy, but I'll explain more to you. But what happened was, my wife was there and she saw it, and he just said, "I've never seen this, and I don't know. I don't understand." Oh, those words were gold. Because 8 years ago I said to him, I would go home and pray. I'm not going to go straight to hospital. And some of you know the story, and I decided to listen to my heart, listen to God, and I was led. And for 8 years, I had fought this. Every 6 months, he was measuring me, and then a couple of years, and then went back to 6 months. I started this journey with 2,200 pauses, and my heart often would stop for 7 seconds. I'd be sitting there when my heart would stop, and I'd say to myself, "Is this it? Was that my last heartbeat? Will I ever get another one?" And I had to fight for 8 long years in between the heartbeats. I now know how, and my goal to the day I die is to teach everyone who's willing to listen, how I did it and what I did. Because, the thing is, I realise now that my heart was strong. But now I had to deal with all the mental damage I've been dealt with, from the lack of oxygen and blood, because I'd lost my memory. For about, when I had the last stroke, I couldn't. After it came out of hospital, I couldn't even play my guitar, my piano anymore. I had to fight back. I'll tell you those stories later. But the point is, I knew now that my heart was strong, but now I had to work on my mentality. And I can tell you, it's now 3 months later, and every day my mind has got better. My mental capacity's got stronger. I've even built a website. I even wrote the song Our World Needs More Heart. I always promised Jazzy that before I died, I would write that song, but I couldn't write it. 8 months ago, I began to start to write, and I thought back on that. I started to write, and I've done that song now. My mentality got strong enough. If you go to the website, you'll hear the song. I call it the children's song, Our World Is My Heart. That's Jazzy's song. She has shared that message since 3.5 years of age for the last 20 years, giving out her hearts. And I did. I wrote that song. I produced it. I sang it. I sang it in the fire, in between heartbeats. I produced it. It took a long time. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. I'm really sorry. I'll have to stop. I'll get back. I'll see you again later. This is my very first video I've ever done on this. Thank you.